Horror movies have terrified audiences for decades. But some of the most famous horror films ever made were inspired by disturbing ideas, real crimes, and stories that still haunt people today. Tonight we're exploring the horror movies that shocked audiences and changed the genre forever. In 1973, one movie terrified audiences like nothing before it: The Exorcist. The story follows a young girl who becomes possessed by a powerful demon. Two priests attempt to perform an exorcism to save her soul. When the film was released, audiences reacted with shock. Reports claimed that people fainted, screamed, and even left the cinema in fear. But what made the movie even more disturbing was that it was loosely inspired by a real exorcism case from the 1940s. The film became one of the most influential horror movies ever made. Just 1 year later, another film pushed horror even further: The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The story follows a group of friends who encounter a terrifying killer known as Leatherface. The movie felt shockingly realistic: dirty settings, chaotic violence, and a sense that the characters were completely helpless. What many people don't realize is that the film was partly inspired by a real criminal, Ed Gein. Gein's disturbing crimes shocked America in the 1950s and inspired several horror villains. In 1978, horror introduced one of its most iconic killers, Michael Myers. In Halloween, a masked killer escapes from a mental institution and returns to his hometown. Director John Carpenter wanted Myers to feel less like a human and more like pure evil. A silent figure, emotionless, relentless. The film was made on a very small budget, but it became one of the most successful independent horror movies ever made, and it helped define the slasher genre. In 1984, horror introduced a villain who attacked people in the most vulnerable place imaginable: their dreams. Freddy Krueger. In A Nightmare on Elm Street, teenagers are hunted by a burned killer who appears when they fall asleep. If they die in their dreams, they die in real life. The idea came from real news stories about people who mysteriously died in their sleep. The concept turned nightmares into something far more terrifying. In 1999, a low-budget horror film completely changed the genre: The Blair Witch Project. The movie follows three filmmakers investigating a mysterious legend in the woods, but they never return. The film was presented as if it were real footage discovered after their disappearance. Many viewers believed the story was real. The marketing campaign even created fake missing person posters for the actors. The illusion made the film incredibly convincing and incredibly unsettling. Decades later, horror films continued evolving. In 2018, Hereditary shocked audiences with its disturbing story about family trauma and dark secrets. The movie slowly builds tension until its shocking final act. Many viewers describe the film as deeply unsettling, not because of constant jump scares, but because of its atmosphere and psychological horror. Horror movies work because they tap into our deepest fears: fear of the unknown, fear of evil, and sometimes, fear that the story might be closer to reality than we want to believe. Because the scariest horror stories are the ones that feel almost real.